Welcome to TGC. My name is Yasir Khan, and today we are joined by renowned expert Dr. Marvin. He is a renowned expert, and his expertise lies on South Asia and including Afghanistan. So, in this episode, we are going to discuss Trump's second term and its implication on South Asia. Thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.
Uh, we see Trump in White House again. So first, tell me, how do you see his second term, especially for South Asia? Should we be happy or we should be more concerned about his uh, head on
Yeah,
policies?
yeah. Let me start by saying that uh, his approach, which you've heard of, this America First,
Yeah,
uh, which is controversial in itself in this country.
yeah.
There are bad connotations associated with that very term. It was used by supporters of Nazi Germany in the
Mhm,
late 1930s, that
mhm,
very term. And it usually connoted a nativist, uh, insular country, isolationist, whatever term we want to use, uh, which even if it made no sense in the 1930s
mhm,
or after, because isolationism has been around in this country for a long time. Um, this inward looking approach here is certainly what is going to be emphasized with greater vigor
mhm,
than was in the first term. Now, because even though they rant against globalization, there's no getting away from the fact that the United States is unnecessarily, for its own economic and generally security interests, is generally uh, committed here internationally, whether it wants to or not. And we're seeing that. So, in this, only the first 10 days or so of this new administration, we're seeing a lot, which very honestly, certainly on the domestic front, but on, I would say on the international front as well, has been unpredictable. Uh, uh, and to some people, at least, even shocking. And I think this is almost deliberate on the part of Trump uh, and his acolytes. Yeah. Uh, it, uh, it is shock and awe, as we say.
Yeah,
Uh,
so here I want
yeah.
to mention about his state secretary and national security advisor. Both of them are staunch supporter of India, like in South Asia, where India has already been given preference in international politics by the US and its allies. So, what do you think? What will be the serious implications on Pakistan?
Well, let me put it in a little larger context. Almost all the countries in the region have begun this relationship, extending the hand of cordiality,
Mm,
uh, of normalcy. Uh, all of them had some reason to be unhappy with the Biden administration for particular issues, and somehow got it into their heads that uh, we might expect better
mm,
from this new administration. And I think unrealistically, knowing that going into the relationship, what his views were on transactional behavior, uh, uh, that he doesn't give anything without getting something in return. So it's not done for its own sake
mm,
that you provide assistance here, but only in what it can then provide in return.
mm.
that kind of thinking, I think, dominates
Mm.
everything here.
Yeah. So in the case
And
of,
so
yeah.
all of them have had great, I don't know if great expectations, but hopeful with
Mm.
this new administration, and that includes India and Pakistan and Afghanistan. Um, Maybe we will even include China as China
Yeah.
uh, things.
Yeah, so you said very well that Trump is expecting something in return. But in this case, I think India can return something. But Pakistan, what does Pakistan have to return to the US when there is Taliban in the Afghanistan? Do you think Pakistan still have the leverage of terrorism that US still rely on Pakistan that we will counter terrorism from the Afghanistan?
In the past, what Pakistan has had for the United States is its ability here to facilitate U.S. actions in Afghanistan,
Mm,
uh, political and, of course, militarily. Uh, and in this, of course, it has had the mixed results. Uh, uh, Pakistan has been absolutely necessary. It was the during the period from 2001 until 2021. That 20-year period, uh, it would have been very difficult for the United States and its allies to conduct their military operations in Afghanistan without the facilitation of Pakistan. Uh, and of course, it was the resupply here, but also shared intelligence and other things. But at the same time, Pakistan was pursuing its own interests here. And those interests came down to we don't think, number one, that the US and its allies are going to be around very long. Well, they were wrong on that. 20 years is long, but not indefinitely. Uh, and they believed also that when they lost interest,
mm,
then Afghanistan was going to go back into a state of nature the
mm,
way that is, it was going to become politically chaotic. Uh, Unless Pakistan backed a potential replacement for the Karzai, then Ashraf Ghani government, uh, unless it did. And what fell very naturally to Pakistan because of its connections with the Taliban during the 1980s and 90s, um, I should say not 80s because the Taliban really don't appear until 94. With that connection was just mainly through groups like the Haqqani network in particular, where there was a very close relationship. Anyway, the point was that once the international community exited,
mm.
that what Pakistan needed for its own interests here was a friendly Pashtun government. And this is what the Taliban had to offer. That it could, at least this is what Pakistan thought it had to offer. Now, let me say, I think that was in a way naive
Mm,
because if they, if, and Pakistan should know better, that the Afghans, whatever the regime is, uh, whenever, is always suspicious of Pakistan.
mm,
It's always fearful that Pakistan uh, is going to is too demanding, it's overbearing, that it's going to want Kabul to be subordinate
mm.
to Pakistan,
Yeah.
if not subservient to,
Mm,
to Pakistan.
yeah.
Um, so this was unrealistic,
Mm,
uh, and of course there was good evidence of that when the Mujahideen government was formed in 1992. And rather than the Mujahideen being thankful to Pakistan for the sanctuary that it provided and the and facilitating the aid coming from Saudi Arabia and the United States in particular. They immediately said, "No, wait a second. We don't dictate to us. Don't tell us this about what you want us to do. We'll follow our own lights." And one of the important things here was that they admitted India,
Mm.
that they because this has always been from the very beginning of Pakistan, that Afghanistan sees India as a counterweight to Pakistan.
Yeah. So there is one question you said that Pakistan is its own interests, but as we know that Pakistan is again facing the challenge of terrorism due to Afghanistan. So what do you think the presence of ISK and Al Qaeda isn't this only a threat to Pakistan or it is also to the US? Because Pakistan is still facing the same threat, and Pakistan needs US assistance in order to counter threats.
Pakistan's main concern is TTP.
Yeah. But
With,
TTP being supported or have given safe avions in Afghanistan.
well, and Afghanistan is using TTP as a as weaponized it against Pakistan. Uh,
Mm,
Now, it has tried not to alienate Pakistan. It has put certain restrictions on the TTP, but the idea that somehow they're going to crush the TTP, put it out of business, uh, Afghanistan has never bought that because it's useful for Afghanistan to have it. Now, ISKP is another issue entirely. Uh, Everyone is fearful of ISKP, even though it doesn't represent at the moment
mm,
that great a threat. But China, the Central Asian countries, the United States certainly, India, and all that. Uh, so when the Taliban came back in, they almost immediately reestablished relations with India,
mm,
which seemed impossible because India was the second largest contributor after the United States of assistance to the
mm,
Republican government of Afghanistan. Uh, and but India uh, didn't want to see the Taliban win initially because they didn't want another Islamic, particularly this kind of Islamic government
mm.
in South Asia,
Yeah.
fearful that it somehow would uh,
Support Kashmiri's struggle.
it would Muslims
Mm,
in India, that it would have a detrimental effect on their that this country would dedicate itself to to coming to the assistance
mm,
uh, to aid jihadis
mm,
and so on. Well, what we have seen here is that there is a Kabul government
mm,
uh, which is not playing that game. Uh, Kabul has cautiously welcomed India back in, and India has taken advantage, saying, "Look, we tried to defeat them.
mm,
We failed. We
mm.
failed at that. So let's make friends with them now and get the same result,
Yeah.
which is don't mess with us here
Yeah.
in India."
So why US is not applying the same strategy? Like if they cannot defeat the Taliban, why they are not making them friends so that it can be easy for Pakistan too?
Well, but Pakistan sees any kind of close relationship between New Delhi and Kabul as bad news.
Wow.
Yeah, that and because Pakistan's view is that most of its problems
Mm,
stem from interference by New Delhi.
yeah.
So that's where we are at the moment. Uh, we see Afghanistan trying to balance things here, uh,
Mm,
and it has done so reasonably well.
mm,
Now, mind you, in establishing relations, close relations with, and also China figures in this too, bring China in
yeah,
because China gives Afghanistan away
yeah,
to face up against Pakistan.
mm,
China China wants very much good relations between Afghanistan and Pakistan
yeah.
for its own economic interests.
So how does the US sees China's influence in Afghanistan, especially extracting lithium from the Afghanistan for its energy sector?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Although I think that's not a major thing, but
Mm,
I know it's cited frequently uh, uh, that issue. But I I suspect what it is that uh, China has an investment now mainly in Pakistan.
yeah.
Any kind of distraction
Mm,
bad relations with Afghanistan would be bad news. So the idea rather is to bring Afghanistan into the same orbit as
mm,
Pakistan.
mm,
The initiative, the Road and Belt Initiative, to bring them in, to integrate them. Uh, and China uh, has, uh, along with Russians, but particularly China, has flooded the
mhm.
country now with diplomats and is gradually drawing things in. But there now is kind of a competition. Iran is also trying to create closer relations,
Mm,
uh, security relations.
mm,
Russia certainly
mm.
is interested. And in all of this, the United States is on the outside.
Yeah. So China's influence is growing in Pakistan, especially with the start of CPEC second phase. Um, so, what do you think? What will be the Trump's strategy? Will Trump try to counter China's influence in Pakistan, or Trump will allow Pakistan to go into Chinese camp?
Well, at the moment, it's made such a small investment in Afghanistan that it has very little leverage. Uh,
Mm,
it's uh, the Afghans, like Pakistan, as I said before, were very hopeful
mm,
that maybe the United States would be willing to invest in the
mm,
country in some ways. But what the United States has come already in this first 10 days
mm.
said, return the weapons that we left.
Yeah.
Demand you do that. Uh,
Mm,
if you don't, if you
mm,
don't, we're not giving you any foreign assistance,
yeah.
which means humanitarian
Mm,
assistance. And
yeah.
in fact, that's become a blanket thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
US Trump is.
and Pakistan's going to be affected by this too. And then there are the tariffs. Now, that doesn't matter much with Afghanistan, but it does
Yeah.
with Pakistan. So all of the countries that in South Asia that were hoping
Mm,
for somehow improvement in relations with were overlooking the fact that quid pro quo,
mm,
transactional, but also that he was likely to, to pressure them with
mm,
tariff
yeah.
uh, as part of a broader. Uh, uh, so, what we're and of course the demand also that Afghanistan do more to shut down groups like ISKP.
Mm. So I want to know that what will be the US strategy to bring back Pakistan from the influence of China? Or is it
Well,
a concern for the US if
yeah,
Pakistan is in the
yeah.
Chinese camp?
The U.S. cannot compete with China
Mm,
economically in Pakistan. Yeah, certainly not now. If anything, what little the U.S. is doing in the way of development assistance
mm.
uh, and military assistance.
It has
Uh,
been stopped by the Trump's administration today. Today there was a news circulating that Trump's have stopped aid to Pakistan, including Ukraine and other
yeah,
countries.
it's part of this blanket
Mm,
for all countries. They stopped, and also affecting here that all contracts, all agreements are on pause, are
yeah.
on hold. Uh, uh, but this is the opening to say, well, now, if you want back
Mm,
the money that we're giving, for example, for for climate, for
mm,
education,
mm,
that uh, we want you to follow through. Now, under the first Trump administration, the attitude toward about China in the administration was any kind of convergence between Pakistan and China was not in American interests.
mm,
That was not the view in the Biden administration. It
mm,
was to recognize, uh, and I think rightly so, that if China can help develop Pakistan's economy and stabilize the country,
mm,
this is in everybody's interest.
mm,
Uh, no one really wants to see a politically destabilized, economically endangered uh,
mm.
Pakistan. That doesn't serve India's interests either.
So you are saying that CPEC is not a threat for the US?
Well, look, at the moment, uh, it does not represent a military challenge. Now, if China demands that it wants to establish a military base in Guadalajara,
Mm,
uh, the view would change. Yes, but under this new administration, uh,
mm,
I think we may go back to where we were
mm,
before that. You're going to have to, if you want our assistance, you're going to have to lessen your ties
mm,
with China. Now, it's not going to happen uh,
mm.
because Pakistan is too economically now bound to China for this to happen.
Yeah.
So that reason, I'm not hopeful about improving relations
Mm,
between U.S. and Pakistan under this administration. Uh, um, it's hard to see because uh, that's about all they can really ask of of of, uh, of Pakistan. Uh, yes, they can ask more strengthening, I guess, of intelligence sharing
mm.
about about ISKP particularly, uh, and uh,
So
it's worrisome.
yeah. Sorry. So there is a dilemma in the South Asia. For example, if the US is supporting India, so China feels insecure, and in response, China support Pakistan. So it's a sort of bloc politics. What do you think? Will Trump like take this something as a serious? Because India and US they're in like strategic alliance such as Quad and Pakistan and India. Obviously, China take this as a threat to their dominance in the South Asia, and China has only one option in the South Asia, which is Pakistan. So, how do you see?
Well, I think it's wrong to say that India is going to play, say, second fiddle to the United States.
Hmm,
India has its own interests.
yeah, but okay.
And so the idea, sure, the United States, you hear this, wants to use India as a counterweight to China.
Hmm,
It wants India to effectively become its uh, its instrument
hmm,
against China. India has made it clear that as much as it wants close relations to the United States,
mm,
which it has economic ties, as Pakistan does, it cannot, it will not be simply at the dictation of the United States.
mm,
That's not going to happen. And even now, we have seen just very recently that India and China have tried to reestablish relations
mm.
uh, more closely. Uh,
Yeah. So, but there is one.
between the,
But there
yeah,
is another argument in this. Like if India is not a conventional tool of the US to counter China, but do you think that US is supporting India at least to create another economic power in the region so that it can balance
yeah.
Chinese? Like it will be an indirect way to counter
Yeah.
China.
Well, this is the case, but again, some of the same quid pro quo is going to be placed on India.
Hmm.
Uh, and I don't think that the Modi government is going to play that game, uh,
Hmm.
not to the satisfaction of the United States. But it's true with the new security advisor, Waltz, uh, and with the Secretary of State, that
Robert.
they are on record. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, they are on record here as being, if you will, pro-Indian. Uh, it doesn't mean necessarily that they're anti-Pakistan. I think that that's an important thing to say. It does not help the United States interest to have tension
Hmm.
between Pakistan and India.
Hmm.
That is not helpful. Uh, and there are many examples historically of where the U.S. has stepped in
Yeah.
to cool relations when they had overheated.
Yeah, to maintain strategic stability. Uh,
Stability, yeah, absolutely necessary uh, uh, because Pakistan is a large country with a large military and a nuclear arsenal.
yeah. So I think it was, I don't know, it was a rational argument or irrational argument, but I want to bring this. Uh, do you think that Trump administration will interfere in Pakistan's domestic politics? Because he's one of his, I think, secretary or some party member talked about that maybe Trump will pressurize Pakistan to release
Yeah,
ex-prime
yeah.
minister.
Well, there are people in the U.S. Congress
Mm,
influenced by diaspora
yeah,
Pakistanis
yeah,
who have been very pro
mm,
PTI,
yeah,
and they because they have fairly large numbers of Pakistanis in their district, and that's what you have,
mm,
and it's very real. But I see no indication
mm,
that this administration
mm,
is going to take up the cause of
mm,
Imran Khan and
mm,
PTI. For example, if they wanted to do that
mm,
in the inauguration, they would have invited
mm.
someone not from the government,
Yeah, from the
but
opposition.
from PTI, the
Yeah, from the opposition.
leadership. Yeah, they didn't do that. Uh,
Yeah,
it extend an invitation, but
mm,
it was to
yeah,
Bialwa.
yeah, yeah. I understand this. Thank you so much once again for your precious time. It was a very, very
Okay. Uh,
informative discussion. By I'm really happy that you have taken your time and we talked about very pertinent topic. Once again, thank you so much.
so thank you for your good questions.
Uh,
Bye bye.